Okay, Madam Court Reporter, if you will please open the record and everyone please come to order. I am Commissioner Dan Clodfelder and I will be presiding at tonight's public hearing. Joining me this evening via WebEx, and please raise your hand when I call your name so folks watching can see you, are Commission Chair Charlotte Mitchell, Commissioners Tanola Brown Bland, Lyons Gray, Kim Duffley, Jeff Hughes, and Floyd McKissick Jr. We will now call for hearing docket number E-100 sub 165, which is in the matter of the 2020 Biennial Integrated Resource Plan reports and the related 2020 Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard Compliance Plans for Duke Energy Carolinas, Duke Energy Progress, and Virginia Electric and Power Company, which does business as Dominion Energy North Carolina, and we'll refer to them hereafter as Dominion. Before we proceed further, and as is required by the State Government Ethics Act, I remind the members of the Commission of our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and inquire at this time whether any commissioner has a known conflict of interest or an appearance of such conflict with respect to these proceedings. Madam Court Reporter, please let the record reflect that no commissioner notified me or identified any such conflicts. North Carolina General Statute Section 62-110.1c requires that the Commission develop, publicize, and keep current an analysis of the long-range needs for electricity in North Carolina. In order to meet this requirement, the Commission conducts an annual investigation into the integrated resource plans that are prepared by each of the three principal electric utilities under the Commission's jurisdiction. In addition to that review, the Commission Rule R867B requires the electric public utilities to file a Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard Plan, which is referred to for shorthand as the REPS Compliance Plan, as part of their integrated resource reports. Integrated resource planning, sometimes referred to in shorthand as IRP, is intended to identify the electric resource generating options that can be obtained at the lowest cost to ratepayers, consistent with safe, adequate, and reliable service. The utilities' integrated resource plans must consider conservation, energy efficiency, load management, as well as supply-side alternatives in the selection of their resource portfolios. In North Carolina, the Commission does not approve or disapprove the utilities' integrated resource plans. Instead, it takes them into consideration in its own long-range planning for electricity service in North Carolina. It also takes them into consideration in determining applications for certificates of public convenience and necessity to construct new electric generating facilities, and in other proceedings where approval of utility programs or investments is required by law. On May the 1st, 2020, Virginia Electric Power Company, doing business as Dominion, filed its 2020 IRP and its 2020 REPS Compliance Plan. On September 1st, 2020, Duke Energy Progress and Duke Energy Carolinas filed their 2020 IRPs and 2020 REPS Compliance Plans. At this time, the public staff's participation as a party in this proceeding is recognized pursuant to General Statute 62-15D, and in addition, the participation of the North Carolina Attorney General is recognized pursuant to his notice of intervention filed under General Statute 62-20. Quite a number of organizations and parties petitioned to intervene and were granted formal status by the Commission as interveners. It's a very, very long list. It's available on the clerk's docket, and I'm not going to take your time this evening to read all of the intervener parties in the case, but there are quite a number of them. On February 2nd of this year, the Commission issued an order scheduling a public hearing to be conducted via WebEx, originally for March 16th, for the purpose of taking public witness testimony with respect to the IRPs and the REPS Compliance Plan. The order required that members of the public desiring to testify must register in advance with the public staff no later than 5 p.m. on Thursday, March 11, 2021. The public staff received more than 200 requests to testify at the original March 16 hearing date. And although we were very pleased to have this level of hearing, we simply decided that we could not accommodate such a large number of witnesses on a single evening, that presented logistical and technical challenges we couldn't overcome. Therefore, the Commission issued an order on March 12 stating that persons registering to testify would be instead heard on a series of sessions over several dates. And on March 26th, we issued an order establishing 6 dates in April and May for the purpose of these public hearings. We directed the public staff to evenly schedule the witnesses across the 6 evenings and to notify each individual of the date he or she was to testify. And so that brings us tonight, which is the 6th and final such session, and to the proceeding we will follow this evening to take your testimony. Over the past year, we have conducted several public hearings using remote technology and have learned that those hearings can sometimes take longer and sometimes be more complicated than when we conduct them in person. And so in the interest of being able to hear everyone scheduled to testify this evening, please respect and follow the following procedures and rules. First, the public staff has grouped the witnesses and scheduled each group for a specific date. The group scheduled for tonight's date are the only witnesses the commission will hear testimony from this evening. And once we've heard from all the registered witnesses, the hearing will adjourn for the evening. Second, as you call in, if you are going to testify, you will be on the telephone line, but you will not be seen on the video screen available to viewers on YouTube. If you are participating in the hearing or if you are observing the hearing tonight, you can watch the commission and the representatives of the parties via the YouTube link. That link is available on the commission's website. If you go to the home page and click on the tab for hearings, you'll find a link to remote hearings, and it'll give you a link to the YouTube site. The public staffs will call this evening's witnesses in the order in which they signed up to speak. When your name is called, at that point, our meeting technician will unmute your phone line. When you hear 2 beeps on your phone line, that means your line is unmuted. And I will then ask you if you can hear me, and we will try to determine to make sure we can hear you okay. At that point, I will then ask you to take an oath of affirmation, after which you've taken the oath. After you've taken the oath, I'll ask you to state your name, give us your address, and tell us which company provides your electric service. After that, you will have an opportunity to make your statement. You will have 5 minutes to present your testimony. Due to the number of witnesses we have and the requirements of the remote technology, I'm going to have to ask you to abide by that 5-minute time. Lisa Needham, who you can't see on the screen, but she's with us. She's one of our meeting technicians. She will be managing the time, and she will give us an audible signal so we can all hear it when your 5 minutes is up. In order to conserve your time, if you have something to say that you believe has already been said about another speaker, you can simply refer to the earlier speaker's testimony and say you support that. And that lets you use your 5 minutes to say something different or new that hasn't previously been said. If you have more information that you wish us to consider than you can provide in the allotted 5 minutes, please remember that you can always file a supplemental written statement with the clerk, and that written statement will become part of the record of these proceedings. If you have documents or other written materials you want us to consider, that's the only way we're really going to be able to take a look at those documents. You'll be speaking to the commissioners, whom you will be able to see on the YouTube link. After you've finished your statement, please don't hang up immediately. The commissioners and the attorneys for the parties will have an opportunity first to ask you questions before you conclude your presentation. So please don't hang up the line until I've let you know whether any commissioner or party has a question for you. When you've completed your statement and you've responded to any questions that you may have been asked, your phone line will again be placed on mute. At that point, you're free to disconnect and go on about your business for the evening if you choose to do so. However, you can remain on the line and continue to listen to the proceedings, or as I said, you can observe them on YouTube. And finally, just a couple of points to help us avoid problems with the technology this evening. If you're using a portable cordless phone, or you're using a smartphone or a cell phone as your telephone link, please be sure your device is fully charged or that you can keep it charged up during the course of the evening. You don't want your phone to go dead if you are one of the later speakers on tonight's list. If you are watching us on YouTube and you are also connected by the telephone line, please remember to keep your computer audio on mute in order to avoid feedback on your telephone line. And if you're using your computer to dial in to the audio for the hearing, Please keep your computer audio on mute except when you've been called upon and you are speaking. And last of all, please be sure the volume level on the device you're using is set high enough so that you can be heard. All right, those are the procedures for this evening, and I'll now call upon counsel for the parties to announce their appearances on the record, beginning with the utility companies.
Good evening, members of the Commission. Robert Kaler appearing on behalf of Duke Energy Carolinas and Duke Energy Progress.
Good evening, Mr. Kaler.
Good evening, Andrea Kells with the law firm of McGuire Woods, appearing on behalf of Dominion Energy North Carolina.
And good evening, Ms. Kells. Ms. Force, I think you're next.
Good evening, Commissioners. Margaret Force with the Attorney General's Office representing the using and consuming public.
Glad to have you with us. I do not see any representatives of any of the intervener parties. If there are any of the intervener parties who are appearing tonight and wish to make a formal appearance, please let me know now. If not, I'll call upon the public staff to make their appearance.
Good evening, Commissioner. I'm Lucy Edmondson with the public staff on behalf of the using and consuming public. Also appearing with me is Robert Josie and Layla Cummings.
Glad to have you all three. Let me ask the parties, are there any procedural or other preliminary matters we need to take up before we hear from the witnesses?
None from Duke.
All right. Hearing none from anyone, Ms. Edmondson, I will call upon you now to call your first witness, please.
Yes, the first witness we've identified is number 3 on our list, Michael Wasmer.
Okay, Mr. Wasmer, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
That's great, and we can hear you. So let me give you the oath now. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, again, give us your name and your address and tell us who provides your electric service, and then you may proceed with your statement.
My name is Mike Wasmer. I'm a resident of Asheville, North Carolina. My utility provider is Duke Energy Progress. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. What I have to say is that Duke Energy is conducting business as usual amidst a rapidly changing world. While you can find Duke Energy participating and hosting numerous conferences regarding the future of grid technology, advanced energy storage, and integrated demand management, you'll find nothing of the sort being implemented in North Carolina. Duke knows that the future is in distribution management, not generation assets. The proposed methane turbines represent a step in the wrong direction. Duke is taking a well-worn route of producing excess generation assets locally to build their regional exports. The people of North Carolina deserve an energy future they can be proud of, not a string of stranded assets instituted by a private monopoly operating a public utility. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Wasmer, thank you for appearing this evening. Let's see, before you go, if anyone has any questions they want to ask. I don't see any questions, so Mr. Wasmer, thank you for joining us. You're free to go or to stay as you choose.
Thank you.
Ms. Edmondson?
The next witness is the 4th on the list, Amelia Covington.
All right, Ms. Covington, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
That's great. We can hear you too, so let me administer the oath, please. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Start with your name. Thank you. Start with your name, your address, and your electric service provider, and then you may proceed.
So my name is Amelia Covington, currently residing at 510 Brent Road, Raleigh. And I'm not sure exactly of the details. I share energy providers with some roommates that help pay, but it is Duke Energy. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm also a field organizer with a local environmental organization and nonprofit, Climate Action NC in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm calling in opposition to Duke Energy's 2020 Integrated Resource Plan. We are in the midst of a climate crisis, evidenced by rising tides, hotter summers, and more extreme weather events. Duke's IRP does not adequately address this climate crisis. And it's past time to get real with our climate goals. As has been said before, our house is already on fire. Duke Energy can and must invest in clean, renewable energy now. And as we address the climate crisis, we must also do so with equity in mind. And again, Duke Energy's plan fails in this regard. Even outside of a major pandemic, families already have struggled to pay costly energy bills. Instead of lessening the energy burden on low-income and vulnerable customers, Duke's IRPs propose to significantly increase customers' bills. Duke Energy's IRPs need to equitably address the intersecting crises that frontline communities are facing, ditch coal, stop all new gas investments, and seriously invest in clean, renewable energy now. We have no time to waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Covington. Does anyone have questions for Ms. Covington? I don't see any. So Ms. Covington, thank you for being with us and speaking this evening.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Edmondson.
The next witness is 6th on the list, Baron Northrop.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Northrop. You're coming through loud and clear. So let me swear you in. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
My name is Baron Northrop. I live at 1 Stegall Lane, Asheville, North Carolina, where Duke Energy Progress provides electricity. The year is 2060. I have just reached retirement age, and I'm looking forward to spending the year with my grandchildren. They, in turn, will retire around 2130. I want them to enjoy a healthy planet. I hope that they will be able to depend on Duke Energy as I have been able to. Unfortunately, this future is not guaranteed for them. At the moment, it's not even realistic. Regrettably, Duke has a record of skewing the balance of our planet versus their profit in favor of their own wallets. As one example, in 2019, Duke sued the Department of Environmental Quality when ordered to clean up toxic coal ash from leaking pits. I support the numerous previous testimonies elucidating Duke's record of dodging accountability. By now, the pattern is clear to you. Duke chronically promises environmental responsibility, then breaks those promises, secure in the knowledge that they can pass the entirety of their punishment off to their customers. Commissioners, your decision regarding their desired price hike is the decision whether to allow Duke to get away with this. Duke's strategy makes perfect sense, if you ignore morality. Duke is the nation's largest investor-owned electric utility. Duke's top 10 stakeholders, holding a combined sum of over 260 million shares, totaling over $23.6 billion, are mostly based in Boston and New York City. Though we did hear from a Duke shareholder in a previous hearing, neither he nor a single other North Carolinian wields any real financial influence with Duke. So the only financial stake Duke has in our future, in young North Carolinians like me, is the price you allow them to extract out of our state and into the hands of faraway investors. While I am grateful that Duke Energy's 2020 IRP does represent some improvement, it still offers too little too late to ameliorate the climate crisis. The IRP's analyses have no details from 2035 to 2050, explaining how the goal of net zero carbon emissions will be reached by 2050. While we can't know what 2035 will look like, that's only 14 years away. We have to be able to get creative. We have to start visualizing our state without fossil fuels now. Cutting fossil fuels out of our power grid is the single most impactful change we can make for immediate climate resilience. Commissioners, I'm deeply grateful for your work. Your stated purpose here is to pursue the safest electricity option at the lowest possible cost. Please realistically consider the safety and cost of climate disaster, because as of yet, Duke has not. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Northrop. Do any commissioners or members of the parties have questions for Mr. Northrop? All right, Mr. Northrop, thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, the next witness is 7th on the list, Beth Hansen.
All right, Ms. Hansen, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can indeed, thank you. So we'll swear you in now. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
I'm Beth Hansen, 3722 Amber Drive, Wilmington, North Carolina, and Duke Energy Progress provides my electricity. We're in the midst of a climate crisis. In Wilmington, we have witnessed firsthand results of climate change: more destructive hurricanes, decreasing sunny day coastal flooding, and more dangerously hot days. As we enter another hurricane season, many are still recovering from past storms. Hurricane Matthew in 2016 was a 500-year flood event. 2 years later, Hurricane Florence resulted in a 1,000-year flood. We cannot afford not to act now to drastically reduce carbon emissions. In North Carolina, municipalities, industries, businesses, and individuals are stepping up to reduce our carbon footprints. However, we are all tied to Duke Energy's choices. The IRP's increasing reliance on natural gas for the next 15 years is unacceptable. The IRP should include a scenario with much more energy efficiency, storage, and renewables than the two base cases. Energy efficiency should be the top priority. It saves customers money and reduces greenhouse gas emissions. Both energy efficiency and demand response reduce the need for gas peaker plants. But in the two base cases, energy efficiency and demand response do not increase from the current 3% of total capacity. The IRPs need to include more energy efficiency across their customer base, with a particular emphasis on low and moderate income ratepayers. Many households in our state are energy burdened. According to the Department of Energy, in Wilmington alone, almost 8,000 low-income renters spend an average of 13% of their income on energy bills, while 1,600 low-income homeowners spend 19% of their income on energy bills. This is an unacceptable burden. Greatly expanding the Helping Home Fund and offering pay-as-you-save financing are two options. More energy storage. Duke raises concerns about storage being unproven at large scale with increased system risks. However, large-scale storage will be a proven technology within the decade. The U.S. Energy Storage Association stated in an August 2020 white paper that it sees the potential for 100 gigawatts of new energy storage by 2030. Given this growth, the scenarios with 4 to 7 gigawatts of storage by 2035 look very feasible. Utility Dive just reported on Monday that Duke is partnering with Malta Inc. on a study of the viability of converting retired coal units to long-duration energy storage systems. So why so little storage in their plan? More solar and add wind. In the base with carbon policy, there are only modest increases in solar, very limited onshore wind, and no offshore wind for 15 years. This makes no sense from a climate perspective or from a least cost perspective. Eastern North Carolina has great potential for more solar and both onshore and offshore wind. Solar plus storage costs continue to fall, and wind can be an important balancing source for winter demand. Duke's neighbor utility to the north, Dominion, is already investing heavily in offshore wind. Let's bring wind energy jobs to North Carolina. Much less natural gas. Natural gas is no longer needed as a bridge fuel in the transition to clean energy. Battery storage plus renewables provide a reliable alternative. The build-out of new natural gas in the two base case scenarios will lock North Carolina into greenhouse gas emitting fossil fuels for decades, or leave the ratepayers with an enormous bill for stranded assets. Renewables and storage are cost-effective alternatives now. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you for coming to speak to us, Ms. Hansen. Do any of the parties or commissioners have questions for Ms. Hansen? I don't see any, so Ms. Hansen, thank you again. You're welcome to stay with us, or if you've got other business to attend to, that's fine too. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, the next witness is Edwin Cito, number 13 on the list.
All right, found him. Mr. Cito, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Great. Let me swear you in, please. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Please proceed, sir.
Okay. My name is Edwin Cito. I live in Gastonia, North Carolina. I want to thank the commissioners for holding these necessary and public hearings, I think. My testimony is very more personal. I agree with all the above that have testified. In 2018, I bought solar panels for my house. And since that date till this present date, I produced over 29 megawatts. Every month, I produce a surplus amount each month, more than what we actually utilize. And Duke have a way of resetting the clock, i.e. Taking off all the surplus amounts that we have used. Now, to some extent, I believe that's in a nice way to put it. It's a form of stealing because we have produced more power than we actually use, and we are creating a surplus. But Duke take that surplus from us every year. Also, I believe that the tax credits which were offered to us for providing solar panels never materialized. And this was due to the installation date and also the notification to Duke when we installed the solar panels. I want to say that in this climate, especially when we heard about Texas and what happened there, you know, coal and fossil fuels is old history. And I think Duke are answering to their company, their dividends, you know, their shareholders. But I believe there are two types of dividends. There are dividends which is financial, and there are dividends which are ethical, moral, and, you know, I don't think Duke are addressing those other dividends. I think that the job market for renewable energy is vast, and they should shut down all coal plants. They should allow community solar. What else? I think that's just about it. I want to thank the Commissioner for taking the time to listen to me. I do appreciate it, and I'll answer any questions.
Mr. Cito, thank you for addressing us this evening. If you would like to contact the public staff or the company, they may be able to talk with you about the tax credit issue and the reset on the solar program. There are a lot of details about that program, and they may be able to talk with you about some of the issues that you've been having with your rooftop solar.
Okay.
Let's see if there are questions for Mr. Cito from the parties or from the commissioners. I don't see any. So again, sir, thank you. We have your phone number, but can you give us your address in Gastonia? I do not have that.
Yes, it's 2548 Kinmere Drive, Gastonia, North Carolina, 28056.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, the next witness is 17th on the list, Emma Childs.
All right, Ms. Childs, can you hear me okay? Ms. Childs, are you there?
Commissioner, we skipped somebody. Let's see here, it's Elizabeth Adams.
Okay, great. So the next witness is Elizabeth Adams. Ms. Adams, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Let me give you the oath. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Again, let me remind you, when you give us your address, please give us your complete address so we got that for the court reporter, please. So, name, address, and your electric provider. Ms. Adams, you may go.
I'm Elizabeth Adams, 103 Larkspur Lane, Cary, North Carolina, 27513. I am a Duke Energy Progress customer, but I also have been subscribed to a 100% renewable energy plan through Arcadia Power since 2017, and I also use a residential time of use rate to reduce my monthly bills. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on Duke Energy's 15-year plan. In my view, they need to revise it to quickly transition to 100% clean, renewable energy and storage for everything, as per Mark C. Jacobson's book that was just published in 2021. I understand that you will not be approving the IRP, but simply accepting them or sending them back for more work. So I hope that you will ask for them to rework their plan. And also, if you could ask for a hearing where expert witnesses could question the utilities on the record and answer so many of our unanswered questions. To improve resiliency, we must carefully respond to disruptions due to unexpected events and severe storms. I live in Cary, North Carolina. Our most recent power outage was on April 6, 2021. Power outages that occur when everyone works and attends school at home cause major disruptions for families. Some neighborhoods in Cary are impacted more than others. The increasing frequency of power outages cause families to consider getting a backup power solution, such as purchasing a household diesel generator. My neighbor has one that starts up, and as soon as the power goes off, it runs until the power is restored. This diesel generator produces harmful PM 2.5 emissions and loud noises that impact their neighbors. If everyone in my neighborhood installed a backup diesel generator, we will have thousands of them running. And Cary is rapidly developing high-density housing, which will mean that so many more people will be exposed to poor air quality that occurs during power outages. A better solution would be to install a battery backup system that could power the critical infrastructure of our homes, and this could generate no harmful emissions while protecting food and our access to jobs and school. A neighbor of mine has a serious lung condition where she has to call the ambulance several times a year because she can't breathe. I don't think that my neighbor with a diesel generator has any idea that they are increasing her risk of going to the hospital. The best solution is to electrify everything in our homes and to power those homes with 100% renewable energy. We can only do this if Duke's IRP plan eliminates coal and gas from the grid and transitions to 100% renewable energy. To reduce my air pollution and carbon emissions, I switched to driving an all-electric Nissan Leaf in 2010. We performed energy efficiency upgrades in 2012, installed solar panels on our roof in 2014. In 2018, we suffered damage to our home due to a leak in our wall to a combination of faulty water lines and also the Cary increasing the water pressure in the lines to accommodate new developments. We replaced all of our water lines in our home and replaced an inefficient gas hot water heater with a tankless water heater. My preference would be to replace it with an electric heat pump water heater, but the plumber didn't have any experience on how to install that type of system. My goal is to remove all natural gas from my home and run on 100% renewable energy. This will greatly improve the air quality inside my home and reduce the risk of my husband having a second heart attack. Please protect the health of communities who are 100% reliant on Duke Energy for their electricity. Please ask Duke Energy to revise their IRP to quickly transition to 100% renewable energy with solar and battery storage and provide homeowners and builders incentives to build and upgrade all homes, buildings, and vehicles to be all electric and energy efficient. Decentralizing the power grid would also be helpful, as smaller areas would be affected and would help deal with cyber crimes that could cripple the grid. I purchased community solar through Arcadia Energy, but I believe it would be better if I could invest in my community, local community solar instead. I gave examples of how I'm reducing my carbon and air pollution emissions, knowing that our town leaders and businesses have to make these same decisions. The IRP plan for Duke Energy should include funding to our community colleges to train workers and provide incentives to municipalities to transition to 100% renewable energy and electrifying everything. The faster we reduce our carbon and air pollution emissions, the faster we will reduce the risk of severe and frequent disruptions due to climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adams. Do representatives of the parties or the commissioners have any questions? If not, Ms. Adams, thank you for appearing to testify this evening. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ms. Edmondson, are we back to Ms. Childs now?
Well, actually, I'd like to go back to the first name on the list, Leo Ammon. We had he was the young man whose mother testified in the last hearing, and he had not, he actually was listed for the second hearing, so we have gotten him on tonight. We just had a little difficulty identifying the phone from which he's calling, but I think we should have him on the line. So Leo Ammon.
All right. Mr. Ammon, can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you, but please pronounce it Ammon. That's how you're supposed to pronounce it.
I will pronounce it Ammon. I have a name that's difficult to pronounce too, so I'll pronounce yours Amon, exactly as you
All right,
wish. Let me ask you to take an oath here. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Okay, Mr.
Never
Amon?
tell a lie.
Absolutely right, Mr. Amon, you got it. Tell us your address and tell us who provides electricity to your house.
Okay, so I have two addresses: 6620 Cashin Road and 1738 Lombardy Circle.
Okay.
And my energy
city?
is Duke Energy and Piedmont Gas, which I regret having. I wish I didn't, but you know, it's the only option. So
Okay,
yeah.
what city do you live in, sir?
I live in Charlotte. Well, no,
Okay.
well, Charlotte and Huntersville.
Okay.
The two addresses are, you know.
They're close by. I know I live in Charlotte, so I know you're not far away in Huntersville. Okay. All right,
Exactly.
Mr. Amon, can you give us your statement, please, sir?
All right. Well, I'm going to start off with how Duke Energy is being the problem in this situation. Basically, they claim to have raised, this is a little bit ago, but I'm still going to bring it up. They claim to have doubled their natural gas, which was for, well, I mean, wait, I'm very confused here. They doubled their renewable energy. Yeah, well, guess what? It went from 1% to 2% or 2% to 4%. Those are my two estimates because I heard one of those and I'm taking off, but I'm not totally sure. So, also, IRP, I'm going to explain that. IRP is not good enough. It doesn't include enough renewables. It has just way too much natural gas, which they claim is very clean. But no, it really isn't. And if you would like to know, renewables are way cheaper. Now, sure, they may look more expensive at first glance because you can't just mine away at renewables. But let me explain. Health issues. You got health insurance. We all got health insurance. Those companies, they gotta pay out and stuff. So less health problems equals less money, more money saved. So it's really like you need to switch to renewables. It's that simple. Really, if I'm gonna really say something here, not vetoing Duke's plan here because they don't have enough renewables. You need to veto it. I swear to God, because this is for my future, other children's future. You have grandchildren or children probably. You want their future to be good. I hope you do. I mean, that'd be nice. But Duke just does not care. Duke really could not care less about your children. All they care about is profit. Because they probably do have children, yeah, sure. But they just pay away their children. See, the thing about my family, we're not totally rich and stuff. So, my mom just can't pay me $10,000 every time I need a little bit of money. So, yeah, you're really just tearing apart everything if you don't veto this. I'm talking tearing apart everything, everyone's futures. I hope good futures for people because it's like if you don't, that's bad. Because I don't care about money that much. As long as I can have like a normal life and have a fun in my life and I can live a life for God's sake, that'd be amazing. I need to do that because living is kind of essential if you want to live, huh? Yeah, so I want to live a normal life, and I want other kids my age. I want friends. Look, I'm not totally poor or like not wealthy at all. I have a little bit of money. I'm like weirdly middle class, but I know people who don't have that much money, and it's just really, really bad for them because they can't just like get rid of it as easily. It's like my friends could die because of this. So if you really care enough, maybe you would veto it. All right. Well, that's about it. That's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Amon. Let's see if anyone wants to ask you a question. Does anyone have any questions? I have one for you. Where are you in school now?
Pioneer Springs, one of the best schools I've been to because I've only been to 2, including Pioneer. So I honestly think best school. It's very involved with nature and stuff, and you know, I like it.
It's a very good school. I've visited there before. You're at a good school. So you continue your studies, and thank you for coming to the hearing tonight and speaking to us. We appreciate it.
All right.
All right, Ms. Edmondson.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. The next speaker is number 19 on our list. It's Gary Smith.
All right. We don't have Emma Childs, whom you had called earlier.
No, I called the wrong name, and
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, Gary Smith, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. You're coming through loud and clear. So let me swear you in. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please continue.
Good evening. I am a Duke Progress customer. I live in Raleigh. My address is 2712 Lockmore Drive in Raleigh. I'm also a member of Community United Church of Christ in Raleigh and a volunteer with North Carolina Interfaith Power and Light, which is a faith-based organization concerned with climate change and its impact on people. I'm also a PhD chemist, and I became familiar with climate change through the scientific literature. Through this, I've come to see that climate change is real and is having and will have profoundly serious effects on us all. And the devastating impacts of climate change, that is heat, storms, rising tides, reduced food production, ocean pH changes, will be the greatest on those people with the least resources. With all that, we have to stop climate change for God's people. As you know, the primary cause of climate change is combustion of fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, which produces a greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide. So we have to stop burning fossil fuels as soon as possible. Much of Duke Energy's electricity is produced from burning fossil fuels, and so in turn, Duke Energy must stop burning them as well, as soon as possible. So what do we do about that? Governor Cooper has provided a clean energy plan to address this. And part of it requires the electric utility sector to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by 70% from its 2005 levels by 2030. Now, turning to the Duke IRP, of the six scenarios in the Duke Energy Progress and the Duke Energy Carolinas 2020 IRP, only 2 of those scenarios provide for this 70% reduction. Those are plans D and E. These plans require innovation, and Duke readily admits that. But if they are the best way to reach a 70% reduction, then Duke has to adopt one of them and then work to attain that 70% carbon dioxide reduction by 2030. Duke has stated that it hopes to be carbon neutral by 2050, as the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, recommends. This is great, but 2050 is beyond the 2020 IRP. So for Duke to arrive at the 2050 carbon neutral that it wants to do, intermediate goals are needed now that fit within the 2020 IRP. And the 70% CO2 reduction by 2030 recommended by the governor's plan is a very appropriate 2030 goal. My concern, though, is that a 70% carbon dioxide reduction by 2030 is actually not a serious proposal because plans D and E are being interpreted as more expensive than the least innovative plan in the IRP, Plan A. Sadly, Plan A falls well short of the 70% CO2 reduction by 2030, or in fact by 2035. My concern is that since they are thought to be more expensive, the least cost energy constraint that Duke is under will force Duke Energy to adopt Plan A going forward with long-term consequences of meeting their 2050 goal. However, If Plan A is indeed least cost, it is only so because many costs of fossil fuels on society, public health, and climate are being externalized in the least cost calculation. Going forward, calculation of least cost must change to include these externalities. Under this new scenario, I'm convinced that plans like D or E will in fact become more appropriate and possibly meet the least cost scenario. So in closing, I have two asks. One, I'm asking Duke Energy Progress and Duke Energy Carolina IRPs to embrace the 70% CO2 reduction by 2030. And I'm asking you, the North Carolina Utility Commission, to instruct Duke Energy to include the costs to society, public health, and our climate in their least cost scenarios. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, for participating in the hearing this evening. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Smith?
Commissioner Clodfellow, I do.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Kaler.
Mr. Smith, this is Bob Kaler. I walk by your house twice a day with my beagle, Elvis, and
I know
our
that.
other.
Hi, Bob.
Just want to say hello. Thank you.
Hi, Bob.
You have to do that in the form of a question, Mr. Kaler. Mr.
My
Smith,
question was, Mr. Smith, I believe you have solar panels and you ride your bike every day. Is that correct?
That's correct. Our solar panels produce about 80% of the power in our house, and as we saw this morning, I did a 40-mile ride this morning.
All right, Mr. Smith, thank you for being with us this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. Have a good evening.
And maybe one day you'll be able to upgrade your neighbors.
I'll keep on Bob.
Ms. Edmondson?
The next witness is number 20 on the list, Greg Yost.
All right, Mr. Yost, can you hear me?
I can.
Great, I can hear you. So let me administer the oath to you. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed, sir.
Okay, thank you. And my name is Greg Yost. I live at 1314 Punch and Fork Road in Mars Hill, North Carolina. My electricity provider is French Broad Electric Co-op, and they get their power, I believe, from Duke Energy Progress. Thank you all for the opportunity to comment. As a commenter in the final session, I won't reiterate excellent observations made previously about the shortcomings of this IRP or the corrosive effects of Duke Energy lobbying money. Instead, I'd like to use my time to focus your attention on the need for evidentiary hearings for this and all future IRPs. Speaking to you over the phone during these sessions, the other speakers and I are keenly aware that our carefully prepared words are indulged merely as an act of courtesy. But this token nod to the value of criticism and debate, minus a substantive opportunity for interveners to cross-examine the claims and assumptions Duke Energy writes into its IRPs, is a sham which fails to meet the needs of the moment. I ask you to consider with a cynical eye the history of our experiment with regulated monopoly in, say, the last 30 years. To meet its energy needs, many years ago, the state of North Carolina thought it wiser to work a single draft horse in each of its energy fields, so to speak, hoping to maintain them in well-ordered, rational fashion. Decades later, however, one horse has taken the bit, cannibalized its neighbors, and transformed itself into a multi-state, multi-billion-dollar behemoth, openly scornful of citizens and ratepayers reaching to recover the reins. This horse goes where it wants, eats what it wants, steps on what it wants. An absurd level of deference is paid to Duke Energy by the state's regulatory apparatus, and this is perhaps most clearly seen in the lack of the simplest, most fundamental, and common sense safeguard for accountability, an evidentiary hearing for IRPs. Its absence allows Duke to wave away serious, well-founded objections as easily as a horse might twitch its tail to swat away an annoying fly. Essentially unchallenged and unchallengeable 400-page-long IRP submissions, dense with obfuscation and self-serving assumptions, bolster the appearance of the inevitability of Duke's spending and building preferences. Without evidentiary hearings, its facts and logic need never be put to the test. In my opinion, this is an extraordinary and unjustifiable abdication of NCUC's responsibility to exercise oversight of the regulated utilities on behalf of the state's citizens. We're talking about a context of incentives for this company, which we all know are totally upside down, which reward their most egregious capital expenditures with near windfall levels of return on investment, and use captive ratepayers to shield them from predictably high levels of price volatility in the future for the poor fuel choices their gas plant expansions are committing us to today. How much longer will Duke Energy succeed in grifting 21st century ratepayers with their 20th century business model? I don't know, but in the meantime, only the Public Utilities and only the Utilities Commission and its public staff can hold them accountable for their current plans, which would stoke the climate crisis and strand billions of dollars in assets. I ask, therefore, that you schedule an evidentiary hearing for this IRP. Make hard evidence and open arguments, including expert witness testimony. Make these the standards by which North Carolina's power and energy roadmaps are adopted. And thank you for taking my comments into consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Yost. Questions from the commission or from the parties for Mr. Yost? Seeing none, Mr. Yost, thank you again for appearing to testify this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, the next witness is number 21 on the list, and I may well mispronounce the name, and I apologize in advance. Wei Huang.
I'm not sure I can guess whether
sorry.
Mr. Huang?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
By the way, my first name is Hua. Yeah.
Hua. Mr. Huang, will you do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, please proceed, sir.
Thank you. Hua Huang, 7401 Ebenezer Church Road, Raleigh, 27612, North Carolina. And my family from this address is a Duke Energy customer. Thank you for this opportunity for this public hearing. Before I proceed, I would like to reiterate previous speakers' request for evidentiary hearing with expert witnesses. And I also understand that you will not be approving the IRPs, but simply accepting them or sending them back for more work. So please do not let Duke Energy misuse your role by saying that their plans were approved by you. Now, I am speaking as a strong advocate for the need for clean, renewable energy. As of 2019, my family has bought an electric hybrid, which has saved us a tremendous amount of money that would have otherwise gone toward having to put gas in our vehicle almost every week. However, I am also aware that it is not enough to just go electric on transportation. The bigger question here is, like with the electrification of everything else in our lives, what is the source of that electricity? I know that if what allows me to recharge my car comes primarily from coal or gas infrastructure, then I'm still contributing to the worsening of the climate crisis we are all facing right now. As it stands, Duke Energy's IRP does not include firm commitments of coal plant retirement. Its planning may actually lead to increased use of coal in the event that fossil gas prices spike or if there are supply chain issues. This is also indicated by IRP's lack of plan for financing economic transition for workers in impacted communities by coal plant closures. Furthermore, the 6 scenarios in Duke's IRP included the base case of 10 to 13 new gas plants totaling over 10 gigawatts of new capacity, and only one scenario does not include massive fossil gas buildout. And even then, the no new gas scenario still extends operation of coal and inflates costs of cleaner energy options. There's also no scenario in the IRP that models no new gas trajectory that invests in energy efficiency and solar. Duke Energy also failed to address methane emission, which is at least 80 times more potent than CO2 as greenhouse gas. The impact of methane needs to be taken into consideration. Duke needs to start over with this IRP and actually incorporate all cost-effective energy efficiency measures and model impactful steps such as considering efficiency as an alternative to new generation assets. This is so Duke will find true least cost ways that will meet the grid needs and maximize all energy efficiency options prior to building any new generation and keep the cost low for all ratepayers. This is also so that Duke will proactively reduce energy burden of its customers, especially low to moderate income customers. I understand investing in something new takes risk, but as time goes on, we are getting more and more information indicating that stopping gas investment and giving 100% to renewable is going to be a net good, a net positive. There is no reason for Duke Energy to continue investing in coal and gas infrastructures. The coal plants are uneconomic, and an additional investment of 13 more gas plants will lock North Carolina into fossil fuel energy for decades when we need to phase out. Meanwhile, a recent study showed that Carolinas could boost renewable energy to 66% in North Carolina while decreasing costs to ratepayers. Duke Energy has no reason to build any new fossil gas plants, especially when many of them will be obsolete in a few years as solar and storage become cheaper than new gas plants. Actually, we just had a solid example for why we need to stop investing in dirty fuels. We just experienced a fossil fuel panic in North Carolina because of a cyber attack on Colonial Pipeline. This is a sign that we need to stop relying on carbon-based fuels as a sole source of energy. Renewables allow for people to be self-reliant, and as homegrown solution to energy, it is also going to be much cheaper than imports. As it stands, solar is now considered the cleanest and most effective energy supply source, and North Carolina now has the capacity to boost renewable energy to 66% by 2035, but that is only if Duke Energy is willing to stop coal and gas infrastructure cold now, not later, but right now, and go all in on solar and other renewable infrastructures. Furthermore, for the reason above, I asked the North Carolina Utilities Commission to call for Duke Energy to reconsider its IRP, perform studies, and generate models that are not biased in favor of coal and gas, and truly commit to renewables and stop using dirty fuels. The state of North Carolina will have the support from millions of people if they do so. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's see, are there any questions from the parties or from commissioners? I don't see any. So, Mr. Huang, thank you very much for appearing this evening.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, the next witness is 24th on the list, Karen Lauterbach.
All right, Ms. Lauterbach, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Let me swear you in. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please proceed, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Karen Lauterbach. My address is 14 Sweetbriar Lane, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27514. And my energy provider is Duke Energy. And I'd like to thank the Utilities Commission for holding this hearing and for giving North Carolina residents a chance to comment. I've lived in North Carolina for over 40 years, and our state is blessed with many natural resources, including sun, wind, forests, and land. That means we could lead the nation in converting to renewable energy resources like solar and wind. It also means we could lead the way in carbon sequestration by using our forests and agriculture land to sequester carbon. We're blessed to have so many opportunities to lead the way in creating a sustainable world. That is why I was dismayed to learn that Duke Energy's integrated resource plan does little to make use of the resources our state has to offer, and that it continues to rely heavily on fossil fuels. Now is not the time to be locking in more fossil fuel plants. It doesn't make climate sense or economic sense. I have a grandson who lives in California, but who lived with us for much of the last year after the intense fires and smoke forced him and his parents from their home in Pacifica. Then the pandemic worsened and they stayed with us until April. So I had plenty of time to hear from them about what it was like to live under conditions that will become more common with climate change. We need to end our reliance on fossil fuel now and begin building a more sustainable future. My husband and I have done our part to switch to renewable energy. We installed solar panels and battery storage in 2006, but Duke Energy did all it could to discourage early adopters like us. They bought energy from us at a very cheap rate and then charged us a monthly administrative fee that equaled or sometimes exceeded what we made from the energy that we generated and sold to them. Duke Energy should encourage and provide incentives to early adopters. They should not frustrate and discourage us. During the coming years, I'm hoping Duke Energy and the Utilities Commission will do all they can to incorporate more renewable energy resources like solar and wind into North Carolina's energy mix. North Carolina created the Research Triangle Park in 1958, and I think it is time for another big, bold initiative. We should focus on using our state's natural resources to provide energy and to sequester carbon, creating a model for other states and countries around the world.
Thank you, Ms. Lauterbach. Are there questions? Anyone wishes to ask Ms. Lauterbach? I don't see any, so Ms. Lauterbach, thank you very much for appearing and to testify this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Edmondson.
Yes, the next witness is 25th on the list, Kathleen Leibowitz.
Okay.
Hello.
Ms. Leibowitz, I can hear you
me?
just fine.
Yes.
So let me
yeah.
swear you in. Hold on. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you may continue.
My name is Kathleen Leibowitz. I live at 1612 Oberlin Road, Apartment 2, Raleigh, North Carolina 27608. And our power company is Duke Power. And I just want to support all the previous speakers. They've all given excellent information. And I would say that I just want Duke Power to go back and start over with their IRP plan, come up with renewables. We just have so many other options than fossil fuels. So they need to start again and see what they can do and make it healthier. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Leibowitz. Does anyone have questions they wish to ask? No questions then, so thank you again for appearing, Ms. Leibowitz.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, next witness is 26 on the list, Lisa Hicks.
All right, Ms. Hicks, can you hear me? Ms. Hicks? Mr. McCoy, do we have Ms. Hicks?
We do, but she's not responding.
All right, let's temporarily, we'll move past her temporarily since you have a line for her, but she's not responding. So Ms. Edmondson, who do we have next?
Yes, we'll go to 20. Is Ms. Hicks there? Oh. Okay, next is number 27, Maple Osterbrink.
All right. Is that Mr. or Mrs. Osterbrink?
Can you hear me now?
Ms. Osterbrink, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm here.
Let me swear you in. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please proceed then.
My name's, you want me to say my name and where I live?
Give us your address. Yes.
Yeah, start my time over if you started it already. Okay.
Well, the timer won't start your time until after we've gotten the preliminaries out of the way.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, give us your address and tell us who. Go ahead.
Okay. 603 Martin Luther King Road. Street. I don't know, road, Junior Boulevard. It's a boulevard. That's right. I forgot my address there for a second. 603 Martin Luther King Boulevard, Chapel Hill. And you know, I moved from Durham a year ago and it doesn't matter. It's all the same company. I'm with Duke.
Give us your statement now.
Okay. I must say first that we do need an evidentiary hearing because I found out that Duke strikes comments so that they don't have to respond to them, and they're about leaks and climate issues and things that they don't want to deal with or fix. So that's why everybody that remembered in our testimonies have been asking for the evidentiary hearing, because in the past, things don't get done because Duke blocks the truth. In fact, they struck testimony by one of the nation's top several noted gas special scientists, Dr. Howarth of Cornell University. So his testimony did not get addressed or included. And to me, that's criminal right there. My reverend friend told me that in 2017, the faith leaders met with Duke, important people of Duke, I don't know if they were executives, in Charlotte at a meeting about the climate. And that one of the Duke people stated that they could have implemented renewables a lot more than they have, but they don't do it because they don't have to. So there you go.
I want to echo my respected solar champion, Nancy LaPlaca. She testified last week that you are our only chance for some sense to be brought into this big picture of North Carolina energy, dirty energy, mostly. And the legislature is just pathetic because they do things like deciding no car inspection is needed in 26 counties out of 100 counties that we have because the air quality was improving. Well, hello, why do they think the air quality was improving? So we need a lot of help here to do some sensible things in North Carolina. And a trusted utility of today are moving or have gone to managing power, not controlling the decisions on where that power comes from. So they've got to get with it, like a lot of people have said. I did find out that you commissioners don't approve or disapprove exactly the plans, but you accept or don't accept an IRP for planning purposes. So we can get our words right and ask you to not accept whatever has been thrown in front of you here. Many states have rejected proposed IRPs lately. I think about 16 states, I believe I read that. I'm talking about the number 6 tonight, that 6 states are stuck with Duke Energy. There's a lot of closed-door meetings lately, leaving many people out of the negotiations with a lot of Republicans only also. That is very controversial. That was just last week. That came out in Utility Dive. That the future of our power in the state is behind closed doors. It's unacceptable. And you know they've bribed for so long. It's like the bad Kool-Aid, and we don't have to drink that Kool-Aid anymore. It's a crisis, as Greta would say. Let's act like this is a crisis. Need to retire those coal plants that they keep sticking gizmos on, to keep claiming them as assets. We can't replace those with gas either, because the converted plants 3 to 5% less efficient than the old coal plants that they're changing over. So that's just not acceptable. In my view, it comes down to how much money is a monopoly allowed to keep and claiming it's for their shareholders. Duke netted $1.1 billion last year. Lynn Good still receives like $9 million, $14 million as bonuses. I think those numbers are correct, but they show everything that's out there floating around, convincing people that they're okay when they're not. That's where our renewable energy investment money can come out of, the extra mega profit. I know this would be more in legislative territory, not you, but why not mention it for discussion and put it out there that maybe there can be a fair minimum profit and an actual ceiling on profits. For us captured ratepayers, that's what they call us in the monopoly world. We are captured, and we are. So free us so that we can also have solar, like the big companies that Duke caters to for big profits on fancy solar farms, and then keep us in grief and misery and getting cancer from the coal ash. You know, we're those people over there. We get less and we suffer. I live a mile from the awful UNC coal plant that was built before 1900. 6 other coal plants, not quite as old as that, remain in North Carolina. And one, they want to keep running until 2049. That's unacceptable. They've all poisoned drinking water nearby, like the Dan River disaster. And Duke only had to pay 1/4 of Dan River damages, $8 billion. Why didn't they have to pay the whole thing? I just don't understand, and me and a lot of the public, how can this stuff happen? When you hear about corporate accountability these days, and we're beyond that. We need over the top with that. So the 6 options are garbage. Whoa, that's loud.
It is.
6 options.
Ms. Osterbrink, can you wrap up?
Yeah, I can hear it. Okay, so in renewable energy, because it's not okay what they've been doing. It's got to change, and we need your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osterbrink. Do members of the commission or parties have questions for Ms. Osterbrink? Okay, thank you for appearing to testify this evening. We appreciate it.
Appearing audio. Thank you.
Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, the next witness is number 28, Nancy Neff.
All right, Ms. Neff, can you hear me? Good evening. I can hear you fine. Let me swear you in, please. Do you solemnly and sincerely
Okay.
affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please proceed, ma'am.
My name is Nancy Neff. I live at 10989 Hat Creek Lane in Davidson. Duke Energy is our electric provider. And thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. As a mother and grandmother, I am concerned about potential future effects of global climate change. Examples are rising seas, increased tropical storms, extreme precipitation, droughts and floods, decreasing crop yields, which threatens food security, water stress, and increasing health issues, all of which are only some of the impacts our children will have to live with. We need to close coal plants. We need to build solar, wind, and storage. As mentioned earlier, let's bring those jobs to North Carolina. Duke should not inflate the amount of energy we need, and it should do accurate assessments of such. We need to allow for community solar to support the rural and low-income residents in North Carolina. We need to allow competitive energy procurement for ratepayers. The end result is cleaner utility portfolios and customer savings. We need to follow through with the goal to reach 70% clean energy by 2030, as specified by Governor Cooper's Clean Energy Plan. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Neff. Are there questions from Ms. Neff from anyone? All right, I don't see any, so Ms. Neff, thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you.
Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, next witness is number 29, Nicole Gabriel.
All right.
29.
Ms. Gabriel, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Great, hello. Let me swear you in, please. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
My name is Nicole Gabriel. I live at 27 Suncrest Court in Durham. Commissioners, I want to begin by thanking you for hearing the voice of the people and creating multiple hearings for every witness to be heard. I've lived in North Carolina for most of my life, and I think it's because I grew up here that I care so deeply about this planet. How remarkable is the miracle of life on this floating rock? Earth is the perfect distance from the sun to be warmed without being burnt. Our atmosphere is a perfect mixture of breathable matter, and our soil is full of nutrients for life-giving trees to flourish. Human beings have had the grace of 2 million years to evolve to a point of such safety and comfort that we can be allowed the struggle of tripping over dog toys or finding spoiled produce in the back of the fridge. And our planet just goes on turning day after day, recycling our water, recycling rock material over and over to constantly renew itself. Every plant and animal on this planet plays an integral role, including humans. Unfortunately, over the last hundreds of years, we have been doing damage to our planet that strips our naturally perfect earth matter, poisons our water, and destroys our very special atmosphere. Due to fracking, Oklahoma experiences earthquakes that should never happen there because they aren't on a tectonic plate boundary. Due to overheating and ocean acidification, our coral reefs are bleaching, which in many cases causes irreparable damage. This planet is more than our home. It's part of us, and we are part of it. I love eating fast food, but I know I can't do it for more than 5 times a month because it causes me physical pain. Our reliance on coal is no different. Our planet can only take so much before it becomes sick. The planet's fever is rising as it tries to kill off the nuisances which cause it pain. And the irony of it all is that the planet will make it all right in the end. It's all the living things that will cease to exist. Too long have human beings been focused on nothing outside of what is directly within our sight. While the coronavirus was ravaging countries on the other side of the planet, most people here looked on with a distant concern, and it wasn't until we started having cases in this country that U.S. citizens became truly worried. We cannot allow climate change to be just another thing that we do nothing about until it's too late, simply because it doesn't affect us as severely as it is affecting our brothers and sisters at the equator, or creatures who literally can't do anything about it. This is an issue that affects all of us. And the longer we wait to realize that, the more dire the situation grows. How would you like to know that you lived during a time when countless species ceased to exist simply because we didn't care enough to do anything about it? Please reject the Duke Energy and Dominion IRPs. We finally have a federal plan to put us on the path to healing the planet, and all of these IRPs demonstrate that they have no intention to get on track with that plan. We do not want any new fossil fueled plants to be opened up. That is an exceedingly clear message that we are moving backwards. Governor Cooper's clean energy plan is to reach 70% clean energy by 2030. These IRPs are not set up to meet that goal. Yes, clean energy will come with a financial cost, but is it really greater than the cost of our beautiful Outer Banks being flooded? Is it really greater than the cost of our children thinking that polar bears and elephants are mythical creatures? I'm a video game developer, and I spend my days imagining fantastical worlds for people to explore. But everything I create is based on the very real magic and miracles that exist on this planet in the form of life. What we have here is something so special, and we cannot take it for granted. Again, thank you very much for your openness and for your listening, and please hold an evidentiary hearing. Thank you.
Ms. Gabriel, thank you. Are there questions for Ms. Gabriel this evening from anyone? If not, then Ms. Gabriel, thank you very much for your comments tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Edmondson?
The next witness is number 31, Roger Coates.
All right, Mr. Coates, can you hear me out there?
I can, thank you.
Great, great. I can hear you too. So I'll give you the oath now. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, please proceed, sir.
My name is Roger Coates. I live at 5616 Glenkirk Road here in Charlotte. Duke Energy has been our supplier for the 26 years that we've been here. I want to thank the commissioners for putting up with so much different testimony from so many people over 6 different nights, apparently. And I offer, by way of contribution to your goodwill, a cessation of the early part of my testimony, since I endorse so much of what's been said before. And I want to cut to the chase on some new information that I think I can add to the consideration you're bringing to this issue. The 2020 International Energy Agency report compares what they call the levelized costs of electricity generation in 243 plants in 24 countries, in which they factor in a cost of carbon dioxide emission of a modest amount of $30 per ton to their considerations. And based on that levelized cost analysis in those 243 plants around the world, electricity generation costs of low carbon technologies in almost all countries, specifically including the United States, are increasingly below the costs of fossil fuel generated electricity. To be specific, the report shows that onshore wind generation is the lowest cost generation technology available. Utility scale solar is very cost competitive with onshore wind. The cost of offshore wind is currently about the same as natural gas generated electricity. And electricity is the high cost option among all these choices. While this report analyzes data from many plants in many countries, these conclusions apply specifically to the United States, along with all but 4 other countries. The trends in electric power generation factoring in modest CO2 emission costs clearly indicate a future of renewables playing a dominant role in the electricity generation business. So why is Duke continuing to plan for a leading role for fossil fuels? I understand, for instance, that 90% of the electricity Duke generates in Indiana, for instance, is from coal, with the last coal-fired plant to close in 2049. Well, the desired returns on capital do with this illogical strategy. With prices charged to ratepayers set to recover all capital and operating costs, plus an 11% markup, Duke would seem to have little incentive to strive for lower cost generation technologies. In fact, heavily engineered expensive coal and gas plants effectively add to Duke investment returns. That may be good for Duke shareholders, but it's certainly not in the best long-term interests of most of Duke's other shareholders. And in that context, I note that the Duke spokesman's statement in dismissing Elliott's proposal to divide Duke three ways said that Duke will always advocate for the best long-term interests of its shareholders and stakeholders. I would suggest the utility commissioners, instead of focusing entirely on the written IRP documents in your deliberations, undertake three related tasks. Spend some time looking at the best generation, especially in Europe, which is generally ahead of the United States in use of integrated multi-source electric generation technologies. In your IRP review, concentrate on the technical models underlying the IRP document language for an understanding of their proposed business strategy for the planning period. Seek, in collaboration with Duke officials, a significant increase in the planned investments in electric efficiency, which is the cheapest source of generated electricity. And then finally, adding in what others have said, we need an evidentiary hearing with this integrated resources plan. A collaborative process sounds great, but it clearly is not the answer to the questions that we all have. In conclusion, I thank you very much for your willingness to hear such a large number of concerned citizens and really appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coates, for staying with us this evening and your patience. We appreciate your testimony this evening. Are there questions for Mr. Coates? I don't have any, so Mr. Coates, again, thank you for being with us this evening.
I appreciate it.
Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, the next witness is number 32, Scott Klein.
All right, Mr. Klein, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Let me swear you in. Let me swear you in first, sir. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you may continue.
Hello, my name is Scott Klein. I live at 2924 Oberlin Road in Raleigh, and I'm a Duke Energy Progress as well as a Dominion customer. And I'd like to just support all of the previous comments that have been made. I'm 34 years old, have lived in North Carolina my whole life. I grew up in the Boy Scouts and spent about every month camping, backpacking in Western North Carolina, water trips in Eastern North Carolina, and developed a deep love and appreciation for nature and the beauty of our state and all of its people and ecosystems. And I hope that the commission can listen closely to all of the statements that have been presented and to allow for the evidentiary hearing has been called for to reject the Dominion and Duke Energy IRPs and to call on Duke to not build any new fracked gas plants and fossil fueled infrastructure the climate crisis is the cause of our generation, and I hope we can rise to the occasion and provide a clean energy future for our state and planet. Thank you for taking the time and for listening to my comments tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Klein, for presenting your testimony this evening. Are there questions for Mr. Klein? Oh, I see none, so thank you again, Mr. Klein, for being with us.
Thank you.
Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, the next witness is the last one that we have been able to identify through the telephone number. It's number 37, Ed Ablard. After this, we have 2 lines that we have not identified that we'll need to check on.
Okay. Mr. Ablard, can you hear me?
Again?
Great. I can hear you fine, so let me give you the oath, please. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed, sir.
My name is Ed Ablard. I live at 1802 Gray Street, Wilmington, North Carolina, 28405. I've lived here since 2018, and before that I lived across the street since 2012, and I moved from the Washington, D.C. area in 2012, whereupon I started to learn about the North Carolina way of doing things. I'm by trade a lawyer practicing in D.C. and also in North Carolina. I wrote a letter and put it in the file tonight about some work I've been doing since October with using a resource which is too voluminous to attach to my testimony. It's a magazine called The Drawdown Review, subtitled Climate Solutions for a New Decade. It's about 100 pages long. It's easily downloaded from the drawdown.org website. But I found that it was necessary in my use of this document to actually have the printed document in hand before I could comprehend its scope, and it's a genius document, which I commend to all of the commissioners as a desk book. And the reason I say that is because this is a document that contains 76 solutions to achieve the drawdown of CO2 needed to prevent further temperature rise in the world, really. The solutions are in worldwide numbers, and the amount of CO2 that they say needs to be drawn down is 1,576.5 gigatons of CO2 by 2050. Each one of the 76 solutions are ranked 1 to 76. Number 1 is offshore wind turbines. Number 2, utility scale photovoltaics, and it goes on from there. There are circle graphs to explain how the utility industry is divided up, and I would take it that this utility commission would be most interested in that. But I have read and skimmed the IRP that's in controversy tonight, and I find that the company does not do a good job of recognizing the need for carbon dioxide reduction in the number of 1,576.5 gigatons. And so I think that in sending this back to the utility, this IRP back to the utility, it would be good to have them start from a position of what amount of CO2 they're contributing to the atmosphere and what amount that is in relation to the amount that is going into the atmosphere every year and the amount that they will proceed over the life of the IRP to reduce the CO2 going into the atmosphere. I have some experience with planning. We just finished in Wilmington a clean energy plan filed with the City Council January 16, and 5 different items from that plan were adopted. They're going to be setting up a clean energy task force. All of that's come on since the order of March 26. So I think that's new matter, which might be well looked into by the Commission. Several of my co-participants in that Clean Energy Task Force have testified. One of them tonight, Beth Hansen. I do think it would be good to change the way the Utility Commission looks at long-term planning and I thank you for your time.
Mr. Abelard, thank you for your testimony this evening. Are there questions anyone wishes to ask? All right, I don't see any. So again, Mr. Abelard, thank you for the testimony this evening. We appreciate it. Right, Ms. Evanson?
Yes, Commissioner Klopfelter, while the last person was testifying, we had 2 additional people scheduled for tonight call in, and
Okay.
we've been able to identify them. So the next one would be number 34, William McNeil.
All right.
Yeah.
Mr. McNeil, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Thank you for holding this hearing this evening.
Great. Let me give you the oath. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do so affirm.
Okay. Give us your name, your address, and tell us who provides your electric service, and then you may proceed.
Okay, I'm William McNeil. I'm a resident of Guilford County, living at 1014 Gretchen Lane, Unit D, in the New Garden community near Guilford College. I'm a customer of Duke Energy. I have grave concerns for the future climate crisis that's threatening the homes and livelihoods of all North Carolina's residents and businesses. This is also personal for me, as my wife is experiencing health problems relating from asthma, pulmonary fibrosis. Our daughter and our granddaughters also experience asthma, and we are concerned about the climate impacts that will only make these health concerns worse. And I'm sure we're not alone in this. I thank you for your attention to this IRP that Duke has presented. All decisions have consequences, decisions that you on the Utilities Commission make this year and those that Duke Energy makes in the time frame of their IRP from 2020 to 2035 will affect all of the levels of greenhouse gases and impacts on climate crisis on us all. I ask you to reject Duke's IRP at this time and to direct Duke to submit a new plan that does, 1, retire its coal plants sooner on a more rapid timetable, 2, invest in no new gas infrastructure, 3, increase significantly the amount of renewable energy and large-scale energy storage in its portfolio, and then 4, to prepare in the near term for the emerging advanced nuclear technologies that are expected to be available beyond the scope of this IRP, but the planning must begin now and not later. I note that Duke proposed its IRP in 2020 under the former federal administration. And as we all know, I think so much has changed with the new Biden administration and its policies recommitting to the Paris Climate Accords for reducing carbonization of transportation and the energy production arena. This all warrants a new analysis on Duke Energy's part. I think that they were basing a lot of their regulatory assumptions on deregulation, and they fail to account for new regulations and a new approach to reducing carbon that will be at least underway in the current administration. I note that the schedule for retiring older power plants is way too slow. The cost projections seem to ignore the environmental and health risks associated with running these aged plants. These are risks that are going to be borne by the neighbors of its plants and people downwind from those plants, and I'm particularly downwind from the Belews Creek plants. In my view, Duke should give more serious consideration to replacing coal with nuclear options that will emerge, preparing for small modular reactors and other technologies as they become feasible. Duke seems to rely so extensively on fracked natural gas, and their models fail to account for the environmental cost of methane that have been documented as having a great impact on greenhouse gases. The Biden administration, most recently to regulate methane leaks more rigorously, need to be taken into account, and to define the cost of the social cost of greenhouse gases in their cost calculations. In my view, I recommend that you call for Duke to update its analysis to reflect these external costs. With that, I thank you for your attention to my concerns and concerns of many others who care deeply about our community, our state, and the planet that we inhabit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McNeil. Are there questions from commissioners or from the parties? I don't see any. Mr. McNeil, thank you for your patience in waiting with us tonight and presenting your testimony.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, the next witness is number 36, Mark Thelkeld.
All right.
Hi.
Mr. Thelkeld, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, we got you fine. So let me give you the oath, please. Do you solemnly and
Okay.
sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please continue.
Well, first of all, my last name is Threlkeld, Mark Threlkeld. I live in Swannanoa, North Carolina, Buncombe County. And the testimony has all been very good, some of it very detailed. I'd like you to fly back up to 30,000 feet for just a minute and think about the fact that not just here tonight, but really all over the world, conversations like this are taking place. A Dutch court ruled just today that Royal Dutch Shell, one of the largest energy companies in the world, must reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by 2030. That's 9 years from now. That's outstanding, and obviously would be remarkable and probably will be contested, but nonetheless, conversations like the one we're having are taking place all over. We cannot stand to have a 15-year plan from Duke Energy that will lock us into greenhouse gas emitting facilities for the next 30 years. The commission can force Duke onto the clean path. What I would like to see happen, what I would like for you to consider is, number one, make Duke maximize all energy efficient options before building any new generation fossil fuel plants. If their case is so strong in your opinion that they have to do that, at least make them maximize what they're doing to increase efficiency. Two, Duke has to accelerate the retirement of the 6 remaining coal plants. They're inefficient, they're losing money. It makes no sense to have those in operation. And third, and that's pretty much what I've said, don't allow them to move forward with an energy plan that will lock us into using fossil fuels for the next 30 years. 6 coal-fired plants and up to 13 fracked gas plants are simply too many and too much CO2 going into the atmosphere. So I know you've heard a lot of arguments and you've spent a lot of time at this, and I appreciate the time you've spent as a fellow citizen of this state. And I hope that you'll consider not allowing them to move forward with the plan as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there questions from any of the parties or the commissioners? I don't see any, so thank you, sir. We appreciate your testimony this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, Commissioner Kleinfelter, the next two, we have two lines. We haven't been able to identify the caller, so let Mr. McCoy unmute them.
All right, let's just stand down for just a second then, and we'll let Mr. McCoy see if he can identify the callers and to determine whether they're on the list for this evening. Ms. Edmondson, if you'll just give me the signal when Mr. McCoy's been able to determine who the callers are.
Hello, caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Can you state your name, please?
My name is Connor Kippy.
Okay, this is number 11, Connor Kippy.
All right, Mr. Kippy, I have you, and I can hear you. So let me give you the oath, please. Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do affirm.
Okay, your volume is a little low, so you may need to speak closer to your microphone, but please proceed.
I am Connor Kippy, a Durham resident at 1026 Gloria Ave, Durham, North Carolina, 27701, and I am a Duke Energy Carolinas consumer, and also a climate action organizer with Climate Action NC, a branch of the League of Conservation Voters. I speak both as a private citizen and a representative of my organization, along with my other coworker, Amelia Covington, who spoke earlier tonight. I support her earlier testimony. First of all, I would like to thank you all for your time tonight and for your time during all of the other hearings. I know hearings are perhaps not the liveliest of affairs. To best speak as a representative of my organization includes showcasing my own personal story. I'm lucky enough to live near downtown Durham in a well-forested neighborhood. However, just several blocks away from myself, in a neighborhood where I have friends and where volunteers of my organization live, there exists little to no tree cover on many of the streets. Though in some ways, this is separate from climate issues, it exacerbates many of their harmful effects. We know from numerous studies that inequities such as this exacerbate health issues in those that experience them. Though the reforestation projects in this city obviously are not the purview of this commission, the increased prices these and other residents of many of our cities experience now and into the future are. I use this as just one of many examples of how the different IRPs will negatively affect our residents. Many others have been provided by others throughout the night. As has been well substantiated by many North Carolina climate scientists, the future will bring increasing temperatures to our state and result in higher energy costs for cooling under our current system. This commission can work now to reduce both the future temperature increase and underlying nature of the pricing system. I call on you to reject the currently planned IRPs of Biennial and Duke so as to change this possible future. The plans as currently outlined keep fossil fuels in our energy mix too long, undervaluing the societal and future government costs of climate change, and hence shortchanging both current and future NC residents. To properly evaluate our future energy plans, we must more fully value the costs of continued fossil fuel exploration and dependence. At least 70% of clean renewable energy by 2030 and 100% by 2050 should be our low-end goals, with forecasts to exceed them if possible. To reach a sustainable, equitable future, we also need to allow communities to develop their own means of energy production, empowering them through community wind and solar initiatives that will bring long-term lower cost and healthier energy to our communities. This, when mixed with larger scale clean renewable energies, will provide us with a more resilient, efficient, and just energy system. I call on you to require a hearing with expert testimony as recommended by other speakers, and to require the utilities to continue to work on these plans. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kippy. Are there questions anyone wishes to ask? I don't see any. So again, Mr. Kippy, thank you for testifying this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, there's one more witness on the line that Mr. McCoy needs to unmute.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, hello. Who's? Yes, I
My
can hear
name's
you.
Patricia. My name's Patricia Wolf.
It's number 30
Okay,
on the list.
Ms. Wolf, I have you, and I can hear you. So let me give you the oath.
Okay?
Do you solemnly and sincerely affirm the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please continue.
Well, I'm Patricia Wolf, and I live at 1088 Sardis Cove Drive in Charlotte, and Duke Energy is my provider. I'd like to say that I certainly hope that you all can do something to make this more than just a formality, whether that's the evidentiary hearing or talking to individual Duke employees to plant a bug in their ear for future. But I'm just very concerned. I know we all love our children and our grandchildren and want to use science. So how they can be so blind as to suggest 25 is the number I read, 15 is what I've heard someone else say, gas plants that'll still be operating in 2050, leaking methane, which is much more harmful than carbon dioxide, and have such puny goals for solar and wind power. It just seems that their profit has blinded them to their survival needs for their family. And I certainly hope that some of the money that energy collects can be used for innovation, because lots of innovation is still needed when it comes to storing like big batteries for electricity, more electric grid, building insulation, heat pumps, maybe even safer and smaller nuclear, having improved regulations and policies. I know that's not something they're going to impose on themselves, but that's something that needs to be included so we can focus on anything but fossil fuels. So I sure appreciate your time and hope you can do something useful with our time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wolf, and thank you for your patience in waiting with us this evening to testify. Does anyone have questions for Ms. Wolf? All right, I don't see any, so again, thank you for being with us, Ms. Wolf. We appreciate it. Ms. Edmondson?
Yes, Commissioner Kleinfelter, that was our last witness.
All right, let me ask the council, are there any matters we need to take up in conclusion before we adjourn the public hearing?
None from Duke.
Not seeing any. All right, I want to thank everyone for participating and being with us tonight. Let me remind folks again who are following us, if there are things that you think of afterwards that you wish you'd said but didn't get to say, again, remember, you can file written statements with the clerk. They do become part of the record of the proceedings. So thank you all for your patience and for participating in this remote hearing tonight. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you all.